people tend to ring up people like me is because they're uncomfortable. Cold weather comes in, the phone starts to ring. So I started the Facebook group, My Efficient Electric Home, 10 years ago, and that's been hugely popular. We've got like 152,000 members. You put in 1 unit of electricity, you get 4 units of heat coming out. But my wife says, hang on, that's all too complicated. Let's tell people it's like buying shoes. Along came the climate emergency. And so there came a point when I couldn't share the enthusiasm that my management had for getting oil and gas out of the ground as fast as possible and burning it.
Okay, Tim Forcey, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
Now, just give me a quick rundown on your career. I know you've done a few things. You're a chemical engineer, and then you started a Facebook group, and you've worked with gas, and now you're doing consultations for people's homes. Is that correct?
Yeah, I first came to Australia a long time ago working in the petrochemical industry over in Altona, the western suburbs of Melbourne, with organizations such as ExxonMobil, people have probably heard of. But I permanently migrated to Australia years ago with some help from BHP, working in the gas industry. So yeah, oil and gas, that sort of thing, producing oil and gas, but also all through the different careers in industry, we were always focused on efficiency because, you know, you can make money, save money by being efficient as opposed to being wasteful. So yeah, it was definitely squarely in the fossil fuel industry. Oh, if you go far enough back, I even worked in coal in early days back in America. So I was squarely in fossil fuels, but of course along came the climate emergency. And so there came a point when I couldn't share the enthusiasm that my management had for getting oil and gas out of the ground as fast as possible and burning it. So I had to find something else to do.
Okay, so you do energy consults now.
Yeah, so these days I go into people's homes if they ring me up and spend time with them and look at everything throughout the house, the heating systems, the insulation, the draft, how drafty is the home, look at the energy bills and try to offer advice as to how things could be improved depending on what they're trying to accomplish. Are they, they want the house to be more comfortable? Do they want to reduce their energy bills, improve their environmental performance? So that's what I do these days. I go into people's homes and help them out. And I've been in over 1,000 homes doing that sort of thing around particularly Melbourne and Victoria.
1,000? How many homes would you do a day or a week? Or?
Oh, well, the most I've ever done in a day is 2 or 3. I think the best 365 days I ever did was about 200 homes. But I'm 67 years old. I'm semi-retired these days, but people keep ringing up and I'm like, I guess I should help you out.
Okay. So if you've been in that many homes, what do you think is the biggest issue with Australian homes right now as far as energy efficiency goes?
The reason why people tend to ring up people like me is because they're uncomfortable. So what you'll find is when the weather's good, the phone isn't ringing. But when the cold weather comes in, and others who've been in this longer than me have seen this sort of thing for decades, when the cold weather comes in, the phone starts to ring. Or when we have a heat wave, the phone starts to ring. So people may be concerned about their energy bills, or they may have heard that maybe they should get off gas, or maybe they want to improve the environmental performance. But what really motivates people is comfort. When they're uncomfortable in their homes, they finally say, look, I should do something about this. And COVID and the COVID times were actually probably pretty good for business because people started spending more time at home. They couldn't just head off to the office and warm up or cool down. They're like, oh, I got to stay in this place for a while. Might as well see what we can do to improve it.
COVID was a very interesting time. I think a lot of businesses seemed to actually see an uptick. There were some businesses that really struggled at the start, but then there was a lot of things, particularly on the back end of COVID, where, there was a lot of people that all of a sudden, seemed to have money and seemed to be spending time at home and seemed to want to spend money on home improvements, which, was definitely good for industry on the back end of COVID. But so you say that people just want to be comfortable. You don't think one of the main drivers is people get uncomfortable when they get a big energy bill? Is that something that makes people uncomfortable?
Like I say, the thing that finally drives them to ring up someone like me is the comfort. But you mentioned that I started a Facebook group. So I started the Facebook group, My Efficient Electric Home, 10 years ago. And that's been hugely popular. We've got like 152,000 members and like 1,000 members coming in just in the last week. And we get 50 posts a day. And it's people talking about everything to do with the efficient electric home. So they could be talking about draft proofing or solar panels or heat pumps, whatever. And yeah, we've definitely saw a big uptick recently, as I'm sure you have in your business as well. This federal government battery rebate has been enormous and has really got a lot more people thinking about, again, what they should be doing to invest in their home and improve their home. So a battery is not terribly comfort related. So I guess a couple things might drive people. It's comfort, and then it's hearing about free government money that they don't want to miss out on.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just had to laugh then. Free government money. We have a lot of people call up that want to buy a battery, say, and they don't ask, how much is the battery? Their first question is, how much is the rebate?
Yeah,
like, how much rebate do I get? I want the government money. That's what people seem to want. As well as, obviously, there's the movement that's really picked off in the last, it's really kicked off in the last 12 to 2 years of get off the gas. I know get off the gas was a movement for quite some time, but I think it really gained momentum 1 or 2 years ago. Do you find that a lot of people are kind of following that movement of get off the gas as well?
Yeah, certainly. And look, it was 10 years ago. I'd left the fossil fuel industry even 15 years ago, but 10 years ago I had the opportunity at the University of Melbourne. We were doing research into various different things, but at one point we said, let's look at the home economics of heating a home. And so 10 years ago we worked out that even then you could heat a home with a reverse cycle air conditioner at a third the cost of using gas, and a lot cheaper, of course, than using a standard electric heater. So that was 10 years ago. That was right when the price of gas started to shoot up, because for the first time they started exporting gas from Eastern Australia. We'd never been able to do that before 2015. But once that started to happen, they developed the coal seam gas in Queensland. There was so much of it, it would have flooded the domestic market. So they started exporting it, and they export 3 or 4 times as much out of Queensland now as what we actually use in Eastern Australia. And so that allowed the gas companies to say, whoa, you've no longer got a buyer's market, we've got a seller's market here, and so you can pay international prices, just like, in Australia we paid international prices for oil and petrol for a long time. So suddenly that became the case with gas 10 years ago. And so right there, you had the economics, you had a very good cost of living story that people could heat for a third the cost, even before we had this cost of living crisis. And so ever since then, there's been I've certainly been encouraging people to get off the gas. As you know, you can also heat your water with a hot water heat pump for a third the cost of gas or thereabouts, or even less if you've got solar panels to help out. And get off the gas cooking, ring up the gas company, disconnect, boom, you're done. No more gas bill. I do a lot of public presentations, and before an audience, I'll ask people to put up their hand if they'd like to get a gas bill for the rest of their life. And funny, I haven't had anybody put up their hand.
Yeah. It's interesting. So what do you think about if someone's got gas heating in their house, so maybe they've got underfloor gas heating or in the roof gas heating, and they were looking at getting off the gas and they wanted to replace it with maybe they wanted something equivalent or they want something efficient. You think that if they went to, say, split system air conditioning, they could save a third of the money?
Oh yeah, and even a ducted system,
it would have cost a third of the amount. Sorry,
to run it.
Yeah.
That's right. Because these reverse cycle air conditioners, whether it comes in a ducted or a not ducted package, they're heat pumps. They get free heat from outside. So you put a bit of electricity in to run the fans and compressors in those systems, but they're able to extract free heat from the environment outside. That's how heat pumps work. And, they can be like 400% efficient. But, you put in 1 unit of electricity, you get 4 units of heat coming out. And we could talk about, coefficients of performance in the refrigerant cycle, but my wife says, hang on, that's all too complicated. Let's tell people it's like buying shoes. And so she says, look, if you're, say you go to the shoe store and you want to buy shoes, well, you give them the money, but in the case of the reverse cycle air conditioner, you get 4 pairs of shoes. So that's the 400% efficiency with an
But the interesting thing about that is, I don't know, with the shoe analogy, we'll continue with the shoe analogy because it's funny, but if you were running an air conditioner and that air conditioner requires electricity to run and it gets heat from outside in the air and then it pumps it inside, that electricity you could also generate from your roof. So it's like instead of going to a shoe store, it's like making your own shoes at home for free and making 4 of them.
Yeah, I like that. That extends that
it
analogy
out.
a bit. And certainly a lot of people do that with the hot water heat pumps, that they can set them up on a timer to come on. Like mine will be coming on at 11 o'clock this morning. Only needs like 800 watts, less than a hair dryer. That'll easily be coming off the solar panels, and so we basically have free hot water. But with heating, often you're turning the heater on at 6 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock at night when the sun's not really doing too much for you unless you've got the batteries. So now with the federal government rebate on batteries, we'll be seeing more people charging up their batteries in the daytime, and then they can run their air conditioners at 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. and basically get free heat or free cooling.
And that is the problem in Melbourne in particular, because it is freezing overnight. Even in summer, it's still not uncommon to get a very cold night in summer. So that is a problem that people have, because previously everyone just had solar panels and they had free power during the day, but they had to pull power from the grid at night. Now there's this federal battery rebate, which has just come into play. It's in full force now. I think it was 20,000 batteries installed last month. And I always thought that was low, actually. I was expecting a higher number, but it's definitely ramping up. I think there were stock issues that held us back last month for our company anyway. I know a lot of other companies had stock issues. But I want to, so with the batteries, I want to touch on that for a minute, because I read your book. Now, obviously, I don't think we've touched on this too much. You're the author of a book, My Efficient Electric Home Handbook, as per the Facebook page. I read it a year ago and I brushed up on the weekend. When you wrote the book, you didn't really touch on batteries much at all. So this was maybe a year. When did you write the book? About a year ago, and you didn't see batteries as a viable option at that point in time. Is that correct?
I suppose when I was putting pen to paper for the book, it was actually 2 years ago. The book did come out in June in 2024. And look, I like to write from personal experience, and I've been in over 1,000 homes, as I said, and so I've seen the situation with people's insulation or people's drafts, how people heat their homes. And so here's the fact: at this point, still, I don't have a battery at my home. We do have the solar, and fortunately, recently, my wife just motivated me, and we bought an electric car. So we have our first electric car, which has a bloody big battery in it, of course, and it's sucking up any solar that we had left over with this past winter is going right into the car. So I don't have a battery, and so I don't have that personal experience, and so that's why I wasn't able to write chapter and verse about that. I'd rather have the personal experience. Now, the embarrassing thing is I do go into more and more homes these days, my clients' homes, and a lot of them have had electric cars before me, and now a lot of them have batteries before me. So that's a bit that's missing. But then again, we didn't know who was going to win the federal election, and we didn't know if there'd be a battery rebate. So this federal battery rebate has been a total game changer. And where I might have written about the economics of batteries in my book and wasn't that super positive about it, what we now see is with this rebate that, it can make better economic sense for people. And it particularly makes, some pretty good economic sense in places outside of Victoria. New South Wales, South Australia, they've got a lot more volatile electricity prices than Victoria. So you can probably still make a battery pay in Victoria, but you'd probably have to work a bit harder than some of the stories we see coming out of South Australia or New South Wales.
So what do you think then if, let's say, a good quality premium battery, I don't want to say names because I don't want anyone to hold me to this, but let's say like it's nearly a $4,700 rebate on a 13.5 kilowatt hour battery, and a homeowner might pay around $11,000 for that battery. Obviously, there's benefits beyond the return on investment, like blackout protection, environmental, and stuff like that. Like, where do you think the ROI is sitting, or do you think that there's more to it than just a financial ROI? Like, what are the drivers or the reasons you think someone should get a battery at the moment, if you do recommend it at all? Because only reason I ask is because you didn't really 12 months ago. Have you come around?
Oh, well, like I say, the economics of it are much better now that the federal government's willing to chip in. And there's no doubt we need more batteries. We need more solar. We need more batteries. We we still have a long way to go to shut down all the coal plants, and this is something we desperately need to do. We've got a climate emergency. Every bit of greenhouse gas we put into the atmosphere is going to do us harm. So we need a lot of solar. We need a lot of batteries. So I say to folks, if you want to get a battery, get a battery. But speaking for my clients, again, it comes back to people are ringing me up because they're uncomfortable. The battery's not going to help a hell of a lot with comfort. You may be able to get some cheaper heating, and so you can run the heater or the cooler a bit more. I guess that helps with the comfort. But I do go in a lot of homes where A, they're still on gas, or B, they're poorly insulated, or they're very drafty. So there can be a lot of things in the queue, priority-wise, for a lot of homes ahead of the battery. That said, I was in a probably 1880s place the other day in Fitzroy, brick, and I went inside, and the woman living there, I guess you could say she's elderly, which means she's older than me. And the place was cold. It was warmer outside than in. And so she was wondering about, should she try to further insulate her roof, et cetera. And I said, you got an air conditioner here, run it. Don't be afraid to run it. It's not going to be that expensive to run. Be comfortable, be healthy. She already had solar, and the home was totally off gas. So for her, I ended up concluding, look, if you want to spend money on something, why don't you get a battery? So for her, she already had the solar. She could get a battery, and then maybe she'd feel more comfortable running the air conditioner more often so that she'd be a bit healthier in the place.
So if one of your number one priorities then is comfort in the house, or that's what you think people value, and I agree with you there. We definitely find that. So you would go into a house and you would start looking at things like, is there insulation in the roof? Is it draft proofed properly around the windows? Because essentially you could run an air conditioner flat out in the living room, but if the house is a leaky bucket, which I've heard you use that phrase before in the book, then all of that heat energy is just going outside of the house, and then you just got to keep running your air conditioner even harder, and your power bill goes up, and then your power bill's so high you're thinking, oh man, I need to get solar to bring my power bill down, and you need a big solar system to power all of these air conditioners, but all the air is just blowing straight outside the house. Is that what you're finding in a lot of these older houses?
Yeah, absolutely. Our homes are fairly leaky, whether they're leaking air or they're leaking heat, and so that needs to be fixed. So number one issue is if you look up in the roof spaces of most homes, they may have insulation, but it's all been disrupted. You'll find that the insulation isn't where it's meant to be, that someone went up there and moved it around for some reason. So that all needs to be put back. And then, as I said, the homes can be quite drafty. So certainly sealing up all those things can have a big benefit, not only in reducing your bills, but it will improve your comfort, and it also will make the chances of people being satisfied with reverse cycle heating and cooling, it'll improve the chances they'll be satisfied. And RMIT did some computer modeling on this, and you can find the article on The Conversation. It was something like, I put in an air conditioner, but I was still uncomfortable. And so what they showed was, if you're in a place where you've got, a lot of single glazed glass and the home's uninsulated and drafty, you can sit right near the air conditioner and you might be a bit warm, but the heat will quickly be lost. Whereas in the old days with gas, one thing about gas, it was very powerful. And these days, of course, you pay a lot for it. But in the good old days, it was powerful and you didn't pay so much for it. So you were just happy to run that gas heater, whether it was a ducted system or a wall unit, and it would just be blasting out the heat. And most of the heat would have been going out the window, but you didn't care because it was powerful and you were comfortable. So you can say to folks, look, get the air conditioning, you'll save money. But unless you make sure the thermal envelope is at least up to a certain standard, you might get some complaints later on saying, oh, I wish I had the gas because this air conditioner doesn't seem to be strong enough.
So you would recommend basically strengthen up the thermal envelope of the house to keep the temperature in the house consistent, and then the first thing would be strengthen the thermal envelope of the house, whether it be through insulation or draft proofing. And then maybe the second thing is to look at the efficiency of the appliances in the house to reduce the loads. And then maybe the third thing is to put solar panels on the roof to generate electricity to power those efficient appliances. And then maybe the fourth step would be to get a battery. Is that kind of your process that you recommend?
Yeah, you can lay it out there kind of like a sequence. But what I find in real life is there doesn't have to be a first and a second. I mean, I'll go in a home, they need to replace the gas heating and the evaporative cooling with an air conditioning system, and they need to improve the draft situation, and they need to improve their insulation. So look, they could be contacting 3 different businesses for 3 different things. And so that's step one. So step one is go out there and, even after I've left the building, is go out there and get quotes coming in, get more information coming in, and eventually you're going to end up doing something before the other. But it doesn't really matter to me which one you attack first. And in fact, if you've got the energy and of course the money to be doing multiple things at once, we'll go for it. I mean, start contacting people, get the quotes, get more information come in. You'll eventually figure out which is the thing that's going to be done first in your house. But I don't really, worry too much about whether they did the insulation first or whether they installed the air conditioning. I guess with roof space insulation, sometimes that can actually be useful to do that sort of last. If you know that you're going to have a lot of people crawling around in your roof space, you might as well hold off on the roof space insulation a bit until all the people are done crawling in your roof space to install the wiring for your induction cooktop or the refrigerant lines for the air conditioners or even all the wires for the solar panels, and then do the roof space insulation when you think no one's going to go up there again.
Yeah, it's interesting. We actually recommend to do the roof space, the insulation in the roof first, because it clears the roof out, particularly if a lot of houses have gas ducted heating in the roof. We remove the gas ducted heating, all of the ducts, we pull that out, and then we clean the whole roof, we vac the roof out, and then put the insulation in. And then if we're doing a reverse cycle ducted air conditioner, then we put that in over a new set of insulation. Because once we put the reverse cycle ducted air conditioner in, we actually don't want anyone in the roof moving insulation around, knocking ducts off and knocking vents off and all these types of things. So we find it easier to clean the roof first and then do a ducted air conditioner second. But I mean, there's many different ways you can do it. But I think the 2 things is the insulation and the air conditioning are 2 things I think should be done together. And probably at the start, but then, you get your flow-on effect of then you install a reverse cycle air conditioner going from gas. The first thing they notice within the first 3 months is their power bill goes through the roof. And then they start thinking, okay, so what's the next thing? Okay, we need to reduce this. We might need solar or battery. So there's definitely different ways you can do it. And it depends. You could do it all in once or you could do it in stages. I'm just trying to get a bit of a step-by-step process that people might want to do because a lot of people have a lot of projects to do. And they need to prioritize things around their budget and their timeline.
So step one is to get the information. And whether it's from one visit by a home comfort and energy advisor like myself, but probably more importantly then, it's making contact with businesses such as yours to get the quotes and to get more information coming in. And then you'll be able to make some decisions about what you're actually going to be spending on.
Well, hopefully they can get the information from this podcast. Because there's only one Tim and you haven't managed to clone yourself yet to go around and do all these things. And it's funny, there's actually not a lot of people in the industry that have their finger on the pulse for everything. So that can go around someone's house and talk about, insulation, air conditioning, hot water, batteries, that really knows what's going on with everything. So yeah, it's very rare. So it's a good skill set that you have. So it's good if you can go around to people's houses and advise them on these things, and then they can go reach out to different companies that specialize in different areas.
Yeah, I guess, there's me, and there are some others, that do what I do across the country, but it can be hard to make a living. I mean, I've been semi-retired for a long time, and so it's extra money coming in, which is nice. But for it to be a full-time job, that's pretty challenging because I don't sell anything else. And so, yeah, I do get a lot of phone calls from people saying, hey, I see what you do, and it seems like it'd be a worthwhile career. Should I get into it? And I'm like, yeah, you could try, but I'm not sure you're going to be able to support a family or something. So that's probably why you see a limited amount of people with this particular skill set.
Yeah. So what do you think about heat pumps? When you go to people's houses, obviously you recommend to replace their gas hot water with an electric heat pump. Do you lean towards a all-in-one unit like an iStore, or do you prefer something like a split unit like Reclaim? Do you have any preference there, or do you just advise them to see what they can get with their budget?
Yeah, what I like is when you have a business that offers a range of the different hot water heat pumps. And so I'll point people to different websites and I'll say, look at this website here. There's 4 different heat pumps they offer. The more expensive ones are the Sandon or the Reclaim, which is a split unit that uses the carbon dioxide refrigerant. I've got a Sandon, had one for years. Very efficient, very quiet, but it is the Rolls Royce. And I think the price of these things has just, kept skyrocketing ever since I bought one a few years ago. But fortunately, there are other hot water heat pumps that will be fine for your home, and they can be available at a lower cost. They'll be a little less efficient, they'll make a little bit more noise, but they'll still do the job. So I'm pretty happy to direct people to companies that sell a range of heat pumps. I use the analogy, it's a little bit like buying a car. So do you want the Lexus, or do you want the Toyota, or do you want the Chinese import or whatever? And go to the shop that sells a range, and you can talk about the different aspects of the machine and try to decide what's going to fit within your budget.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a minefield. There's a lot of people that have entered the market in the heat pump industry, so there's a lot to choose from. So it's very confusing. There's a lot to learn about, but I mean, a lot of them are pretty similar, to be honest.
Whereas if you're talking about air conditioning, heating, and cooling, there I would advise people to go more with a top of the range item. I guess I could say something like hot water is just hot water, but air conditioning, that's heating and cooling, that's your comfort, that's air filtering, and it will make some noise both inside and outside of the house. And so it's good for you to be aware of all those things. And I'd probably drive people to spending a bit extra on the better brands for the heating and cooling. Whereas, like I say, hot water, there's a number of different units that'll be fine across a range of prices.
Yeah, definitely find that with hot water. There's, there's obviously cheap units on the market that I would recommend people to steer clear from. But there's around the mid-range, everything seems to be pretty good. So it's not too much of an issue. But I have found with air conditioning, there's a lot of cheap air conditioners on the market, a lot of cheap VRF units and multi-splits. And even ducteds too. There's a lot on the market that just sucks, to be honest. I can't think of any other way to put it. But then we've seen some where people have gone for a really cheap unit and they've had a really bad experience, and it's been a warranty thing. And, you get people where it's the middle of winter and it's freezing and their air conditioner stops working on a Friday, and no one even wants to talk to them about it until Monday. And then they find out it's going to take a month to get a service tech out because it's a warranty issue, and they're there in the house freezing. We got to the point when we were quoting air conditioners where I just said, look, it's basically the best or not far off it or nothing. The top two, we go off the top two brands pretty much. And we're like, these are the top two brands. This is all we recommend. Don't waste your time with anything else, because if it stops working, it's not going to be worth the $2,000 that you saved. It's such a critical part of the house. Even hot water. Personally, I'm a bit weird. I like a cold shower. It makes me feel invigorated. But a lot of other people wouldn't like a cold shower, or if they have a family, I'm sure their whole family doesn't like a cold shower. So it is important to get a good quality hot water system as well, because we found when you say selling solar panels, if the solar panels stop working for a couple of weeks, it's like, okay, you need to buy power from the grid. Okay, I'll just buy power from the grid. They don't really notice anything besides on their bill. But if their hot water or the air conditioning stops working, it's a big deal.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And it's good to hear the, I guess we're aligned on the going for the higher quality brands for the air conditioning.
Definitely on the air conditioning. What do you know about cooktops and induction cooktops? Have you had much experience with them? Or you're obviously recommending people change from gas to induction? There's obviously a small rebate for that now. Is there anything you recommend in particular there, or just anything? Yeah,
so it's get off the gas cooking and check out the pleasures of the induction cooktop. So, people can save a lot of money by moving to reverse cycle heating and cooling versus gas, and the same in the hot water. We've talked about that. And then the last thing for a lot of homes will be the cooktop. And one story. I might go into a home and straight away they'll say, we want to talk about heating and cooling and insulation, but look, we love the gas. We love the gas cooking, so we won't talk about that. And I'm like, fine, I know I'm going to be in the house for 3 hours, right? It's like an hour and a half later, I'll come back and say, hey, any respiratory health issues in the home, any asthma, anything like that? And it has happened where a young parent said, my young child has just been diagnosed with asthma. And I said, well, I got to tell you that, a fair chunk of childhood asthma has been linked to gas cooking in the home. It's the nitrous oxide that's produced when you burn anything, but when you burn gas, that is bad for asthmatics. But that's not it. That's not it when you're cooking with gas in the home. You know, the gas cooktop's also giving off sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide and excess moisture and formaldehyde and benzene and particulates, et cetera, et cetera. So, look, my grandmother used to cook over coal. She thought that was okay because she didn't have too many options. If the gas finally came along, well, that was seen as being cleaner. And so now it's time to, do the next modernization, which is to stop burning anything in the home. Don't burn gas, don't burn wood. Get the induction happening.
It's definitely it's the hardest one sometimes for people, particularly maybe not to stereotype here, but often I'll do a thing, we go around the house and you talk to the husband, blah blah blah, and then you talk to the wife. Oh, we're going to replace this with induction. You go, no. The wife says, no, we want to keep the cooktop gas. Okay. I even had one Chinese family I went to recently, and they just insisted that for cooking Chinese food you need a big flame.
Whereas I've had,
okay,
I've had that experience too, but also I've had Chinese clients, and they said, "Hey, look at this electric wok that we just bought." So they were pretty pleased with that. I had another client where he was a chef, and again, his wife said, "Look, we want to talk about everything else, but we won't talk about the cooking."
Yeah.
And but I couldn't help myself. Eventually, he did wander in the room, so we had a bit of a discussion on the cooking, but I didn't go at it too hard. I mean, he's a chef. I mean, even professional kitchens, they're switching over to the induction as well, and so we'll see that happen more and more. But it's funny, I got a text message about 3 weeks later from that client, and she said, "You'll never believe this. My husband's decided to convert over to the induction." And certainly, if you can get the whole home completely off the gas, that will you'll have the advantage of no more gas bill. You pay about $1 a day just to be connected to gas, so why do that for the rest of your life?
Yeah, the commercial cooking one is interesting with commercial kitchens, because there was a lot of pushback on that. I think when Jacinta Allen, she's very popular at the moment, Jacinta Allen, pushing a lot of controversial policies, divisive policies. Definitely some I agree with, some not really. But the cooking one in commercial is interesting, because I would wonder how a commercial kitchen, I mean, I'm not a chef. I don't even cook at home really personally, to be honest, so I'm probably not the right person to ask. But I mean, at a commercial scale, I imagine it's much easier just to plumb up all the gas and have all these people cooking a mass production of meals with gas that it is induction. Because I mean, how much power, if you're going to run a 6 or 10 mil feed to every induction cooktop and you're going to have 10 of them there, you're going to be using a lot of electricity. Like, I can see it working for residential, but do you think is applicable for a commercial kitchen?
Well, they're doing it, and one of the advantages they're finding, gas is quite inefficient. It'll heat up your food, but it also heats up the whole space that you're in, of course, with all the heat that wraps around the pot and keeps going and up into the air. So the greater efficiency of the induction means that the kitchens are a lot cooler and more comfortable than, in the days when it was like a sweatshop with all the heat coming off the gas. And the other thing about cooking is, yes, a cooktop can use a lot of power at the first instance when you just turn the thing on and get the pot boiling. But once it starts to boil, then you can turn it down and you're not using that much power, that much energy at that point. So yeah, you do need to wire these things up so you can hit them pretty hard at the beginning if someone wants to turn on all the burners all at once. But once you get things cooking, then of course you turn it down. In that case, it's not using so much energy.
It's interesting. I might have to do some load calculations on that for some commercial kitchens to find out what it's going to take to have that many induction cooktops. But yeah, there's a few barriers that I think we have to look at. I mean, it's going to be a challenge. Like the other one I seen a post recently was about mains upgrades to houses. I think it was a Solar Quotes post, where a lot of people, they have 6 mil mains, or even they have 16 mil mains on a 63 amps breaker, single phase. And even they are struggling to keep up with the electrification of the home if they have one, sometimes 2 electric cars, electric induction cooktop, reverse cycle heating and cooling. I know actually in the middle of winter when we charge our car and we're trying to run heating on, cooling on both levels of my house, we trip the main switch, which our house, I think it's on a 50 amp, which is not ideal. So we were looking at options, but the way our house was run was, I think, a 10 mil cable underground. So it's very tricky. But do you find many people, they have limitations by the switchboard or the main switch, the main cable, the main consumer mains?
Not that many. I mean, there are homes out there with 32 amps, which is a small number. I had one client, and she had largely electrified already, including the cooktop, and she was just on 32 amps. And she says, yeah, from time to time we'll, have a number of different things happening in the house, and, a switch will trip. And of course, it's not an unsafe situation. It's just a bit of a pain in the bum that you got to stop what you're doing and go reset the switch and figure out, I got to turn the cooktop down a bit and stay under the limit. So she was managing it. It didn't seem to be a big concern for her. And if it, is going to cost a bomb to get more than the 32 amps coming into the place, we got to figure out clever ways to work with that. I know that in America, for example, one startup has a kitchen range, so that's the cooktop and the oven, and in the bottom drawer, guess what? There's a battery. Because that's a way to make sure the power, you don't need a lot of energy, like I said, but you may need a fair bit of power to get started with the cooktop. It's right there. It's right there in the range in this battery, which can give you the bit of juice you need just to get started with the cooking. Another client I had also had the 32 amps coming in, but he had his Tesla and he was charging his car and doing various things, and we had a long discussion about. And he already had a battery on order, so that was going to be coming in. And so then we had a long discussion at the Facebook group, My Efficient Electric Home, about whether bringing a battery in meant that you could get your hand on more amps than just the 32. And so 15 different electricians chipped in. I'm not sure if you did, but we had a very long discussion about what can be done in a home that may not have that much power coming in, but with the federal rebate, we're going to see more and more of these homes with batteries, even the ones that only have 32 amps coming in. And so does that help them?
Yeah, I was going to say it definitely does. If you've got a limitation with how much power you can pull from the grid, and then you have a generation or a storage system on your house, what you've actually done is reduced the amount of power that you need to pull from the grid. So if you do have a 6 mil mains, then all of a sudden your solar and battery, your energy is actually coming from the other direction. So you don't need to pull as much through the 6 mil cable from the street. Ideally, a lot of people that have solar and batteries become independent, and it's borderline to the point you could just cut that cable. Most of these systems don't go off grid. I think SIG Energy can do off grid, but their houses are operating independently, so it doesn't matter so much whether they have a 16 mil or 3-phase supply to the street. But it does matter for people if they don't have much solar or any solar, and they are looking at charging electric cars. That's often the point where you start to see breakers tripping if they are pulling that power from the grid. Like, we're getting to the point now where some homes are starting to have 2 electric cars. They might have 2 chargers. I saw one yesterday, 2 chargers in one house. You're 14 kilowatts going through each one. So you're really cranking up the power draw that's coming from the grid, and you want to turn the air conditioner on as well. You might have problems. So...
Yeah, I've just got 4 months of experience now with our own electric vehicle, and so far we've got no new charger installed. We're just doing the granny charging, the trickle charging, at most 10 amps at a time, which I say to people, that's 14 kilometers an hour. And so I've driven, in here to Malvern, so I can go back and plug the car in for a couple hours and on the trickle charge, and we'll be back up to where we were before I came to visit you today, Luke. But one interesting thing is, we can sweat a lot about how much electricity our homes use. Well, one thing that I knew already, theoretically, but now I see it, for real in my own home, is how much electricity electric cars use as you drive them around. They can easily use just as much electricity as what the house had been using before. Your electricity bill will go up and you'll say, oh my gosh, this is terrible, but hang on, wait a minute. I'm saving hundreds of dollars by not buying petrol.
It's interesting that I'm not sure who exactly, but we set a lot of targets to reach net zero, 2030, 2050, nationally, globally. Everyone wants to reach net zero. A lot of these targets were set, 5 years ago or more, and they were set before things like electric cars came into the mix. And now things like electric cars are here. We're increasing the amount of energy that we need, where the demand is massively increased. And the other thing which is massively increasing the amount of energy that the world as a whole need is actually AI data centers. I don't know if you've looked into that, but they're building a lot of AI data centers for Meta and XAI and ChatGPT, OpenAI in America. And these data centers use a huge amount of electricity and a lot of water as well. I think some have closed loop water cooling systems to keep the racks cool. But that's going to be a big problem with reaching net zero is that AI data centers and electric cars, we're kind of starting to fall behind the targets a little bit, I think, because of these things.
We haven't really seen electricity demand off the grid in Australia tick up yet. This is something that you can watch every day at the website Open Electricity, put together by University of Melbourne. So we haven't really seen it take off yet in Australia. We have seen, recently I published something on LinkedIn, and we've definitely seen a big reduction in the gas use. Gas use is down about 15% for homes and small businesses, so that's great, just over the last couple of years. So things are definitely happening on the get off gas situation. And so then you turn around and say, well, we should be seeing an increase in the need for grid supplied electricity, but we haven't seen that yet. One of the reasons is, we're just continually rolling out more solar panels behind the meter. So a lot of the behind the meter generation capacity is meeting that extra need for people for their Tesla cars, etc.
Oh, I guess you'd be talking the demand coming from the grid.
Yeah, you can look at it just at what has to come from the grid, and then you can look at the bit that is also coming from so-called behind
demand
the meter
from fossil fuels or generation side. Because if behind the meter, often you guys that at a high level they wouldn't even see it because it's generated.
Yeah, you got to make estimates and guesses about what's going on out there, and it's going to be really hard for the people operating these things now with the batteries to try and figure out, how much electricity is actually being used out there. But anyway,
that's what I mean. So, like you're saying, yes, less electricity is being generated from fossil fuels. That's great, but what I'm kind of leaning more towards is more electricity is being used or consumed. I think in general, it's just that a lot of it is being supplemented by renewable energy, which is great. But I'm wondering whether we're going to reach a tipping point where the electricity usage is going to start to creep back up on us again. We're going to start to fall behind.
What should happen? I'm just saying it hasn't happened yet in terms of. The demand for grid supplied electricity. But yeah, we need a lot more solar, we need a lot more wind, we need a lot more energy storage, a few things here and there on the pumped hydro and the hydro. So we need to keep going with all this. I mean, anybody who ever did a 100% renewable study, they always realize that, hey, we're going to need twice as much electricity in the future as what we used in the past. And I guess, if everybody's using AI continuously and watching cat videos, well, then maybe we're going to need 3 times as much of electricity as what we used to need.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a horrible thing, but yeah, it's got to be managed and planned. And watch fewer cat videos on your phone. It'll probably save some energy.
Yeah, cat videos. For me, it's AI. I use AI as like my personal advisor about 20 times a day.
Yeah, and if you're being productive and using it for good things, great. But if you're just fooling around, people need to know that there's a cost for that someone else is paying, and it does require electricity. And someday that electricity will all be renewable, but at the moment it's not. So it's going to keep some of the coal plants ticking over a bit longer again.
I'll have to go back to using my brain to figure things out and research things. When do I need to find things? So even AI is great. I'll just ask it like, I've got to go on a work trip to this city. What's the best hotel to stay at? Here's top ones. Okay, cool.
Well,
here's about my budget. How much? Okay, book this one. And I won't even question it. I'm like, yeah, that's the one.
Hey, even at the Facebook group, My Efficient Electric Home, we've got AI now. And so that bubbled up, and the admins, gave it certain powers. And so I asked it a question. I said, hey, I've got these old wall vents on the wall. Should I plug those up? And it came back with a very good answer. And then plus it linked to a couple previous posts. And so basically, that's what I would have done. If I was the one answering it, I would have said, here's the story. And, if I had the time to dig up a couple previous posts, I'd say, and here's where you can read, about something that we said 5 years ago. Well, AI can do all that now on this Facebook group.
Have you uploaded your book and different data sources to the AI? Because that's
I'm sure it's eaten it already, hasn't it?
You can program your own chatbots, and you can upload the information that you want. So different, whatever. We've done it internally, different spec sheets and stuff for the sales team. Like I always tell my installers, everyone that works for me, I tell them, don't come ask me a question until you've asked AI first. And if AI didn't give you a good answer, then you can come ask me.
Yeah, and the only risk
is
how do they...
That's an efficient way of doing it.
The only risk is how do they judge whether the answer is good or not? But that's the challenge.
Yeah, well, we did look at programming different chatbots, but I use Grok. I use Elon Musk's AI, which is, in his words, the world's smartest AI. Probably another controversial thing. I think they trained it to be truth-seeking, and I think it started saying some things that people didn't like. So take that as you will. But yeah, it's interesting to see the extra energy generation from AI at least. But I just want to quickly touch on your book as well. So if anyone was looking to, electrify their home or make their home more efficient, what are the key takeaways from the book, or what are the key things someone's going to learn if they read your book?
Oh, well, there's 15 different chapters in there, and it goes through everything. So the heating, the cooling, the hot water, and the cooking, and getting off gas, and the solar panels, and the batteries, and the electric cars, and the insulation, and the draft proofing, and the window coverings, and the windows, and monitoring your electricity use. It's all in there.
Yeah.
There's chapters on all that stuff. So definitely. If you're into books, some people aren't, but if you're into books, get a hold of the copy, whether you buy one or find it in a library, and just start reading. And you'll, one of the things you may realize is, and this has happened. People ring me up. They said, "I read your book, and I've been to the Facebook group, but it's too much. I just need a professional to come in here and let's short circuit this thing, and let's just get to the bottom line of the things that I probably should be doing." So if you think you can figure it out yourself, well, have a shot at reading these various resources. But in the end, you may need some professional help as well.
Yeah. Is there anything in the book? I know we've glossed over quite a lot of things. Is there anything in the book that we haven't touched on today?
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, I did used to work in the gas industry, and you mentioned about the challenges potentially of supplying enough electricity. One thing that people need to be aware of, and particularly in Victoria, why is the government supporting the getting off the gas? There are significant rebates for getting reverse cycle heating and cooling. There's rebates for the hot water, as you said. Why is the government supporting getting off gas? Well, Victoria had a 60-year gas supply down in the Bass Strait, discovered. Well, it turns out it was discovered, 60 years ago. So the problem is that it's largely depleted. It can't produce the amount of gas out of there as what it used to be able to do. If you stay on gas in Victoria, more and more of it is coal seam gas coming down the skinny pipelines from Queensland through Sydney and Adelaide. It's coming from further and further away. They're even thinking about bringing liquefied gas in by ship into Geelong. So this would be easily the most expensive gas in the world if it isn't already. So these are reasons why the government's helping people to get off gas. It's a fossil fuel, and we've got climate targets, but also people could save a lot of money by getting off gas. And look, we got through this winter, but next winter again, there'll be news stories about, we may not be able to get enough gas into Victoria to not keep all the lights on, keep all the pilot lights on, I guess. So that comes up from time to time. That's the reason there is this strategy, because we've basically used up the 60-year gas supply that we had nearby here in Victoria.
I'm going to prove to you now that I did actually read your book. You talked about, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was about a death spiral or a death loop with gas. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
Well, sure, the death spiral. So
the death spiral, as everyone starts to get off gas. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so lots of homes are getting off gas in Victoria and other places. Once your home is off gas, you ring up your gas supplier and you say, you can see I'm not using any more gas. And in Victoria, they'll come and take the meter away and do whatever else is necessary to make the system safe. And in Victoria, you only end up paying $220 plus GST for that. New South Wales and Canberra, you can pay a lot more because the government hasn't regulated a fairer price for people doing the right thing, getting off gas. But anyway, a lot of people are leaving the gas grid. And so I mentioned that you pay $1 a day to be connected. Well, we expect not only the price of every megajoule of gas you buy to go up, but also the cost of just being connected will go up. Why? Because all your neighbors got off gas. And if you're the only one left in the street using the whole system, you get to pay for all of it yourself. And so that means that, more and more people leave, and so the costs go up. And that's the death spiral where it just gets, and eventually you're just left with the rich and famous still on the gas grid because they haven't had time to think about it.
It's a luxury.
And the poor and the renters. So the government really needs to think about what's to be done with the poor and the renters with respect to making sure they're not stuck paying for the whole gas grid themselves.
Yeah, rental homes are a bit of a problem, and that's another thing I know you touched on in the book of little things that you could do. But yeah, unfortunately, the renters are the people, I don't know, when crap goes downhill, as they say, and then the renters kind of just get stuck with, particularly I've noticed in Melbourne, you know, a lot of the people I know, the younger people that work for me and stuff, they're like inner city areas, you know, they're like St Kilda, or they're like, you know, maybe Thornbury or around those kind of northern areas, and like the houses are terrible. The rental houses are horrendous. Even a couple of years ago, I was renting in Malvern East, and the house we had in Malvern East, and we had another house in Glen Huntly, and they were both terrible houses. Like they would have been, you would have had a field day if you walked into those houses, I think.
Oh, I've been in homes like that, and you know, I've been involved with some government programs and not-for-profits, et cetera, where we went into all sorts of homes. And yeah, there's some terrible homes out there. The government, Victorian government, is trying to help out a few things. They are requiring that landlords must have reverse cycle air conditioner in every property, and that's not so much for summer cooling with future heat waves, et cetera, but it's just that will also be your cheapest way to heat instead of burning gas or using electric heater. So that's a good move. And they're also coming in, you know, not that I'm across all of this, but coming in with some minimum standards with respect to insulation for rental properties, et cetera, so that a landlord can't just have, you know, the worst property on the market.
Yeah, and it's funny. Even if they have a good property, if they have a property in a good area where there's a high demand, I feel like they can get away with murder. Like I said, the better the area, often the crapper the properties are.
Yeah, and that's why you need some rules and regulations to protect people.
Yeah, it's good. So, is there anything else you wanted to touch on while you're here, or I feel like we've covered a lot of ground?
No, I think it's a very exciting place. You know, makes it hard to retire. There's just so much that keeps going on, and so much we still have to do. I'm sure people like you are run off your feet. You know, we're certainly enjoying the luxuries of the electric car. It's just so much better than any petrol car I ever drove in my life. It's incredible. But then also seeing how, you know, how much money you can save by not buying petrol, but it does increase your electricity use. Okay, how can we get the most out of our solar system? I mean, maybe in the past we let some of our solar electricity creep back into the grid. Well, these days you only get like 1 cent a kilowatt hour for doing that. So you really want to use your own solar. And so sticking it into the car can be one fun way to do that. And now we have the battery system situation, which is apparently just crazy with the amount of people wanting to buy batteries. So it's, I mean, like insulation, draft proofing, you know, some of those stories don't change. You can write a chapter in a book and you're probably not going to have to update it. But as you said, when you get to the leading edge of some of this stuff like the batteries, something you might have written a couple of years ago needs to be updated.
Well, it's interesting. I wrote a sales handbook for my team because I bring a lot of people in, and it was about 80 pages I wrote, and I wrote this about 12 months ago. It was all about solar and battery. Here's microinverters, here's batteries, here's the different types of batteries, blah, blah, blah. I wrote this 12 months ago, and I hired a new person the other day, and I looked at the book, and I said, this is totally irrelevant. I would be confusing you by giving you this information that I wrote 12 months ago on solar and batteries. Basically have to throw it out and start again. So the industry, particularly batteries, is moving so fast. Everyone's moving towards hybrid inverters, all-in-one units, modular, stackable, bang, bang. Like, you know, there's a whole new rebate out there. People are getting paid per kilowatt hour for the rebate for the battery they're putting in. People are putting in huge battery systems, you know, 24, 20, 28, 20, 32, up to anything up to 48 kilowatt hours of storage in a house. And, you know, some people that arguably, there's people arguing about it over the internet, particularly on the industry groups, that a lot of people don't even have the solar to charge these batteries. However, there's different energy plans like Amber that they can go on energy trading. So people are really just capitalizing on this battery rebate at the moment. Everyone's getting really excited. Like our inquiries are through the roof. We literally can't keep up. We've had to turn off quite a lot of our marketing channels just because we can't sustain it anymore. There's only so much we can do. So, yeah, it's an exciting time to be in the battery industry for us. But that's good. Comes with a lot of challenges. But yeah, we're getting it out there. I think that's going to be a big thing, which is going to really help stabilize the grid and help everyone save money. So,
And if you haven't done the podcast yet on vehicle to grid, well, that's the next thing, because you mentioned those battery sizes, but my car has an 81 kilowatt hour battery. So why am I not using that to run the house at night? So
Well, who could we talk to about that? Who's the expert for vehicle to grid?
yeah, I can give you some ideas.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about it after the pod. All right. Well, look, we'll leave it at that. Well, thanks for coming in, Tim. That was good. Yeah. If anyone needs to get in contact with Tim, how can they get in contact with you?
Tim Forcey, Forcey. Just Google it. It's a pretty unique name, fortunately.
Oh, that's good. All right.
Okay.
Google Tim Forcey. If you need to get in touch, you can ask him more questions directly. All right. Well, thanks for coming in.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. No worries. Cool.